Okay, so Fusion Stagenet is up and running. We can see here on the network monitor, we've got a whole bunch of people that have managed to get their nodes working. I think I was one of the first ones yesterday on the 28th. It took me only about half an hour actually to set up on my Mac, but then obviously it needs to be running 24/7, so it's better to have this on a dedicated, properly hosted server. So I'm going to take you through that process. The Fusion guys have sent out some initial instructions, but obviously they're super busy fixing issues and upgrading the code and adding new features. So they haven't sent through super detailed instructions for kind of typical person that doesn't know ins and outs of Linux configuration. I used to. It's probably been about 20 years since I used Linux in anger. More of a lapsed developer these days. But I think I can probably help a few people get up and running. Fusion, if you don't know, is really exciting. It is pushing, new frontiers in terms of blockchain development. They've kind of based things on Ethereum, but they're adding some really unique features for crypto finance. The Internet of Value, as DJ Shan calls it. You will soon be able to create assets. You'll be able to lend all kinds of digital assets to other people without risk, using their time lock feature, which actually lets you set ownership for specific periods of time for crypto and other assets. That means that when you lend it out, you know that it's going to return to you because it's programmed into the tokens that is going to happen. So that opens up the world of derivatives, which is many trillions of dollars of trade out there, but also can let people launch new kind of services where people maybe that couldn't get mortgages before will be able to get them, or there'll be reduced fees and reduced risk for the lenders, things like that. Reduced risk OTC transactions. All kinds of crazy stuff is going to be possible. You can lock in any kind of token pretty much, whether it's Bitcoin, ERC20 based stuff, into your Fusion wallet, and actually can therefore give you more security. But this isn't the time or place to go into what Fusion's all about. This is mainly helping you to set up a Stagenet node, so that you can actually earn PSN, which is the Stagenet version of Fusion, and you can actually earn real proper Fusion as well by doing this. So that's what a lot of people are interested in, as well as sort of helping the system, helping the test process. So we're going to set up a server. We're going to use Vultr because it's a very cost-effective server platform. You can use Azure and AWS, etc. if you want to. There's probably a little bit more documentation and support around those online. But if you kind of know what you're doing, or if you've got someone to help you through, you can set this up pretty cost-effectively on Vultr. So let's take a look. We're going to deploy a new cloud server, a new instance in the cloud. Doesn't really matter where, because you're going to be connected to people all over the world as peers. It's kind of the way blockchain nodes work, decentralized, so they can be anywhere. We're going to have the latest version of Ubuntu. You could pretty much use any of these other options as well, although I think the Windows solution, the Windows node, isn't quite ready yet. So in terms of server size, I've been using this one, and it's been as fast as anyone else on the network, the Fusion network at the moment. So that's fine to go with. You can easily upgrade. It only takes a few seconds to upgrade. Downgrading is a bit more difficult, so best to start at a lower spec. You don't really need to change anything else, although you might be advised to add backups and DDoS protection later. You want to give your server a host name and label. So this could be anything, it really doesn't matter. And we can see Vultr is now installing that on the fly for us. We're in Amsterdam, which is where Joey, one of the core team members, is. How you doing, Joey? He's been really helpful in getting things up and running for me yesterday. And we can see just a few seconds, about 10 seconds, that node is now up and running. So if we click on there, we've got the IP address. This is the name of the node, and then we've got our username and password here. So these are kind of the instructions that the guys sent out. Some people have had a few bits of confusion with them and are asking the guys tons of questions, which is overloading them, I'm sure, taken away from adding support for Windows and some of the other kind of features that aren't up and running yet. So hopefully this will help out a little bit until there's more full documentation. So we're going to first log into the server. So if you click this View Console button here, it will bring up what looks really scary. This is because it's still actually just finishing installation, and it's the first kind of boot. All you need to do is type in your username here, which at the moment is root, and then copy the password. You could paste. If you would prefer to type, then of course you can do that. So there we go. We see we are root at, and that's the name that you gave it in the setup stage. So we can start adding a user who will be able to FTP your files over and to run a Docker instance of the node. So first, type in adduser, choose the username. Let's go with Barbara as an example. You need to choose a pass. Make sure you can remember this, but also make sure it's nice and secure, a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers and special characters. You have to bear in mind that through this browser-based SSH, sometimes it takes a few seconds for your input to catch up. So just give it a moment before you press enter, otherwise you get this kind of passwords do not match problem. Just enter for the default values for the user. Asks you if the information is correct, click yes. And there we go, that user is added. Let's type clear just to clean things up a bit. If we type now groups and the username that you chose, you can see that Barbara, the user, has been added to the Barbara group by default. And if we type in cd, change directory, to the home directory, and then type dir to list the directory contents, you can see there's a folder there created in the same name. So we want to make sure that you own that folder. So you simply type chown, your username, a colon, username again, which is actually the group in your name, and then /home/ and then the username again, because that's the name of your user's default folder. So you now own that, which gives you certain permissions. You can create a new directory specifically to put the node in case you wanted to put other stuff, website and stuff in there as well. You probably don't, but just to keep things kind of organized, let's do that. Make dir mkdir /home/ your username, and then just a name for the node folder. FSN node. Okay, so if we move into the Barbara folder now, so you see here we are in /home/ Barbara. Do a dir in there. We can see that node folder is in there. So now it's time to install the FTP server, which in this case is vsftpd. Just type apt-get space install space vsftpd. That does all of that for you. Next up is to edit the config file for the FTP server. So vim space /etc/vsftpd.conf. Now, this will kind of, if you haven't done this before, it's a bit of a jolt. You've jumped into a program now, even though you're still in this sort of command line area. So you've got to navigate using your up and down keys. All you've got to do here, it's not too scary. You've just got to delete a few of these hashes. So you need to make sure anonymous enable equals no. Is not beginning with a hash, is not commented out, so that command is active in the config file. Same for local enable equals yes, so in this case those were as we want them, didn't need changing. But in this case, you see, we need write enable yes to be active, so we just need to delete that little pound or hash sign there. This is the kind of awkward bit. To exit the Vim editor, you need to press escape. You can kind of see on the screen here, it doesn't look like anything's really happened. But if you type a colon now, you see at the bottom of the screen there, it is doing something. Now type WQ, and that is exiting the Vim editor. You see you're back on this normal command line here at the bottom, and it has saved that config file. So we can now just check that the FTP program will work, and yeah, so service space vsftpd space start, that is now up and running. We do potentially have a couple of permission changes to make. So you see here chmod a-w pass to directory. So this is you know, we want to point this to your user directory. I'm sure there's a few people out there that might spot that this might not be the most accurate, effective way to do this, but this is working. We aren't exposing permissions to the whole world here. You can probably tell I'm a bit clunky on my Linux, but for the beginners out there, this should be good enough to get you started. So those permission modifications on the folder should allow us to upload and connect to that folder from our FTP client, but we just need to restart the server to take into account those permissions. Let's before we install Docker and install the node, let's just check here that we are actually able to connect and upload files. So if we grab the IP address, this is the FileZilla software, which you can get for most operating systems. So here we're not using the root username, we're using the user that we created and the pass that we created. Quick connect, and yep, we're in, and that's the folder that we created. Let's just check that we can actually create other folders here. Yep, we can, thanks to those permissions. So I'll just delete that again. And what we want to do here is we want to create a data subdirectory in the node folder. So yeah, I kind of entered the chmod attributes incorrectly, I think. So let's try that again. So this is just read, write, and execute permissions, so anyone can read. So if we go into there now, all right, so I just think I typed in the chmod, the permission changes incorrectly. Let's just do that again. And we'll reset the server just to make sure those have carried through. Okay, fingers crossed. We can create this data subdirectory. Yes, we can. And in there, we also need the key store directory. There we go. So there's our structure. Within the Barber folder, we've got node, where everything to do with the node should be created, and the password file, password.txt, needs to go in there, and the data and data subdirectory, which will contain all of your blocks, etc. And the key store is where you need to upload the key store, the .json file that you should have for the wallet that you're going to be using, that contains the PSN that you're going to stake to the network. So wherever your files are, so here we've got my key store file that's going into the key store folder, and we've got in the node root folder, we're going to put the password file. So you see data and password. If we go into data, go into key store, we've got the JSON file in there. All right, so we have the in the root folder, we have the password.txt file. Must be in plain text, remember. To make sure that it is, if you're using text edit on a Mac, for example, just go to format, make plain text, and that will do it for you, and then save it as password.txt, or you can just use the keyboard shortcut shift and the Apple key and press the T, and that will make sure it is plain text and that the node can read the actual password. Check that you've got the data subdirectory and then the key store subdirectory in that. Make sure you've got your JSON file starting. The file name should start with UTC. Make sure that's in the key store subfolder, and you should actually be pretty much good to go and actually get the node downloaded and up and running. All right, so we're going to run sudo apt-get update, sudo apt-get install docker.io. I've already done that, but you'll get a few more commands. Next, I'm going to try and actually run sudo. So sudo docker run -v, locate the folder, and then immediately after, with no space, :/fusion -node space fusion network /EFSN space -u, and then here you're going to drop in your the wallet address, the address of the wallet that you've uploaded the JSON file for. Close that single quote around the wallet address, -e, and then your node name. So you can choose anything because this is simply just a reference so you can see what your node is doing when you look at the network monitor. And we're running. So just one other thing, because this may have already been done on this server. If it doesn't run, then you need to just run these commands: sudo chmod +x run psn.sh, enter, and then sudo space /run psn.sh, and then if you run the sudo docker command again, it will run the second time. So that's pretty much it. You can see we're importing the block entries here. You've got a bunch of blocks to catch up with. There's only a few thousand as I record this, so it shouldn't take more than, I don't know, 10-20 minutes to catch up with most of that. There are some bugs, it seems, in some of the node code. So a lot of people are seeing that they're crashing at certain points and they're having to restart the node, and they're having to play catch up again because they're rolling back to sort of 400 or 700 blocks and keep every time they have to start. At the moment, they're having to catch up. We've only been running for a few hours, so it's pretty standard. If you've seen some of the other launches, Stagenet and mainnet launches, there's all kinds of bugs, and this is the first time it's been kind of tested in the wild, so only to be expected. I know the guys are looking into that and working on it. But don't worry too much. It just means you're going to have to keep an eye on it and do some manual restarts until they release a new version of the code. And once this is up and running, you see it actually mining, you will be able to hopefully spot your node in here. You can just do a search in your browser. And we're not in there yet. But we, sorry, there's one that's the very important thing that you actually need to do. So you need to actually buy the staking tokens. And so you do that by, again, going to auto buy stake here from wherever you are in the Fusion network. You click here to upload your JSON file, or you can just enter the private key. If you do the JSON file, you'll need your password again, and once you do that, you'll see a page that shows where you can buy tickets. So you'll see here, I've got a bunch of tickets being bought. So far, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think I've earned 182.5 real Fusion tokens, which haven't been sent yet. They aren't actually sending these out, but it's an indicator of how much you can earn. Here we can see the kind of percentage ROI. We were looking at sort of 3,000 at one point last night when there were only a few nodes. That's obviously going down. The guys are expecting sort of, you know, anything between 10-12% at the lower end, and you know, whatever, it could be higher depending on the competition on the network for the live net. But yeah, let's see. We've got no idea really how much you're going to earn from participating in the Stagenet. They've dedicated a percentage of their own tokens to give us rewards for anyone that participates. So I've actually got this running on another server because this code isn't running if you don't have the browser open. So we've got the node running on a 24/7 available server. Obviously, if I shut down my laptop, it's going to stop purchasing tickets because they don't have a background kind of service or a cloud-based service for this. So I've actually got another Windows server, and I just have a browser window open on that, which is permanently rebuying these tickets for me. That's why it's not open in this particular browser. But all you need to do, you click purchase. It's 200 FSN. We're calling them FSN, but it's actually the PSN tokens because we're on the Stagenet. You click max quantity, and there, if you click auto buy tickets, then it's going to keep on buying using all of the PSN tokens that you have available. And that keeps buying you a place in the kind of block reward lottery. You've got an increasing chance of being awarded the chance to process the block and win the reward. The longer that you go on without having achieved that with each of your tickets, so your chances go up over time. That reduces the chances of having a ticket that never kind of wins. So you can see here all of the other guys on the network that are doing this. As soon as you have those tickets activated there, you'll see them. You'll see your nodes appearing here. You'll see the hash rate, how fast it's mining on the Vultr server that we set up. You should be seeing up to kind of 5 or 6 K hash rates. A lot of these smaller ones are probably just on laptops, or they're catching up with the network. Here you can see where everyone is in terms of the current blocks. So it seems not everyone's having this crashing problem. There might have been some code updated while I was recording this video, so I'll have a look into that. But there you go, just have a play around, get your server up and running, and let me know if you succeed. And if you're feeling generous once you've got it up and running, feel free to send some of those PSN tokens over to this PSN address of mine. But it's not really why I'm doing it. I'm trying to help the network. I'm a big fan of Fusion, and I'm sure you will be too once you see in due course what it's actually capable of. So good luck setting up your server. If you do need support, I don't really have time to do that, so get yourself into the official Fusion chat room, speak to on Telegram, speak to Joey and the guys there. But hopefully this will ease a bit of the support burden off those guys. Cheers, and catch you soon in the Fusion Telegram.